How's everybody doing this fine day? My name is Alan Roberts, and we're going to do something a little different today. I know I normally come on here and scream and rant and do all those things, but beyond being a internet loudmouth, I am a best-selling weight loss author, and I am also a rather successful weight loss coach. Also, having lost over 100 pounds myself and kept it off for years and years and years. And that is through a kind of fundamental system that my wife and I put together, mostly my wife, because she's a genius. We put this together. And I thought I would just go through it with you because to give everybody a picture in fact, I can actually give you a picture of what I looked like when I was binge eating, which we shall do right now. I'll put Fat Ass Alan up here. Why not, right? That's not me no more. I killed this dude. Holy cow, I got a lot of files. Oh my God. Anyway. Let me see if I can find myself. There's one of them. Give me 1 second here, folks. You can see if I can find my fat ass self. Maybe it's not on that one. Maybe it's this top. Here we go. There he is. There's Fat Alan. Okay, so this is Fat Alan, if he pops up, which we shall do this instead, by the way. So that's Fat Alan. I've killed that dude. He's no longer in existence. I slayed his ass. And for any of you that think like, oh, you were just fine. No, I was fat as fuck. That's close to, that's probably over 300 pounds because very honestly, I hadn't been weighing myself. I felt that's a long time ago. That's like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And I felt vastly older than I do now at 54. But this guy used to eat 10 McDoubles in a sitting. He was the person that would go through the McDonald's drive-thru and then would cover that with his suit jacket because, you know, corporate executive. And then he would go to Burger King with the actual food from McDonald's covered up. So the people in Burger King window didn't think that I was, you know, eating other food too. I don't know why I would do that because very frankly, I was fat as fuck. Honey Bison, you look like a strong man. Well, I was a very strong person back then. That is, you know, 575, 2 or 3 times a week in the gym, squat, deadlift over 600 pounds, overhead military press with 125-pound dumbbells for sets of 10. Very strong. Very strong. I very strong and stupid, but shortly after this picture, right, a couple years after this picture, it had gotten even worse, and I started having some health problems, right? Because while I got stronger and stronger and stronger for YouTube, which is great because views and blah 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 blah, I was going to put myself into an early grave. My wife, Crystal, who's an amazing woman, sat me down. She was already a yoga instructor like that. It's not like I wasn't a gym goer. I knew what to do. I do nutrition for a living when I was in healthcare because I was the literal like nutrition executive for the fucking entire healthcare industry, the entire healthcare company that I worked for. So ran something like 55 units, $100 million of worth of business. But I was going to die. This guy couldn't run up a flight of steps without almost passing out, and very frankly, had to hold his breath to tie his shoes, and that's kind of fucking disgusting, you know. So she sat me down and said, "Don't you want to live a long life with me?" And that changed my entire world because I realized I was hurting her feelings, and I was not being a good father to our son, and that is shit that I take super seriously. So that snapped me out of my YouTube haze of I'll just keep getting bigger and stronger, and then get more views and all that bullshit. Because that's stupidity. That's stupidity. It's stupidity. So we started realizing that me trying to lose weight, I had either been a binge eater or I had developed binge eating from just eating such a large quantity of food because I could pack the fucking food away. Like, again, 10 McDoubles in a sitting and still would eat something later on. Like, I could massively put away food. So we realized that I had gotten used to an extremely high volume of food and little things, and I was self-medicating with food. Something would stress me out, which I had a stressful life to begin with, because corporate executive plus YouTube, you know. So I would binge as like kind of self-medication. So Crystal realized I was struggling with it. to a great degree. So one of the things she had me doing was she started having me take pictures of all my food while I was away, because I traveled for work. There was many days where I would be in 3 different states in the same day, via either driving or via flying. So she would have me send her a picture, like, "Hey, did you eat breakfast today?" And I would send a picture. So we started realizing that, like, I was eating a little better because it's kind of the principle of borrowed authority, where I knew I shouldn't be eating what I was eating, but I was still going to do it. But I wouldn't eat what I was intended on eating if I had to send it to my wife, and I don't lie to my wife. So it started working almost immediately. But the problem was I would eventually get to a point where I would want it so bad that it would cause a binge, right? So I would get stressed, I would be hungry, and then something stressful happened, and I would binge. So we realized that we needed to start controlling the aspects. Now, the biggest piece of advice I can give to anybody out there: controlling your binging disorder, the food comes last. Like, the food you eat, that comes last. You got to go off hydration, sleep, stress relief, exercise, those things, like how you feel, your relationships, those sorts of things. The first one being hydration. Hydration is the biggest bang for your buck you could possibly get. We advise people to get at least a half an ounce of fluid per their body mass, or an ounce of fluid per pound of ideal upper level ideal body mass. So, for instance, I drink somewhere around 2 gallons of water a day. I don't weigh 252 pounds anymore. I've weighed much more than that, actually. But I weigh about 190 pounds, right? So 190 pounds, that puts me a little over, but plus also I live in a very warm, humid climate, and I do work out outside and spend a lot of time outside because we are homesteaders. So I work out outside, we spend time outside, and very frankly, I burn through I sweat the fuck a lot. I think everybody should if you are not drenched in sweat from physical activity once a day, you're likely robbing yourself, but we'll get to that in a second. So hydration, we started having me take in probably about, at least at that size, I was trying to get 2 gallons in, but it still very honestly was not an ounce per pound of my body mass, and which is probably better, because when we tell people an ounce per pound of their body mass, the reason why we changed that to an ounce per pound of your upper level ideal body mass is because if you weigh 400 pounds, drinking 400 ounces of fluid is likely going to have your kidneys telling you fuck off. So we switched that up a little bit as we have progressed in this development of this happy, hunger-free and happy methodology. So hydration is also the thing you fall back on the most. Like, say you fall off, or say you break into your bad habits that you're trying to get away from when you're trying to develop better habits. The very thing you could do is start focusing on getting tons of hydration in, because if you're focused on that, you're not focused on food. It also provides volume to make you feel fuller. And a lot of times people are radically dehydrated in America. I would argue that a huge portion of the population is not hydrated nearly well enough, and especially because we have so many fat people. It's almost impossible for like a 300-pound woman to be adequately hydrated, because it's going to be hard for that woman to get in enough fluid. Like, you've eaten yourself out of basically the levels of what your body can possibly absorb when it comes to fluid. So, but you always go back to fluid, because if you are dehydrated, there's a very strong chance that you're going to binge, because it increases your cortisol levels. When you're properly hydrated, it helps you manage your cortisol levels, which helps reduce stress. So it also helps you sleep better, as long as, and we did find this out, as long as you try to front load your day with 75% of your total daily fluid happening before your midday. And this is one of the reasons why I never eat before 1 or 2 p.m. in the afternoon, is because I spend most of my morning trying to hydrate. That way I get the vast majority of my hydration in right before the midday, and then I only have about 25% later on in the day to take in, and I try to call a moratorium on drinking water for about 2 hours before my bedtime, 2 to 3 hours before my bedtime. The only thing I drink is a drink between 2 to 3 hours of my bedtime is 30 minutes before I go to bed. I take 1,200 milligrams of magnesium glycinate, and I wash it down with some water. But that has helped tremendously. And then we started realizing that sleep is a thing for me, because I am obviously high process ADHD, and sleep, it's ADHD and driven insomnia is a real thing for me. And it always has been. I've actually been hospitalized for not sleeping So, and I'm sleeping pretty well now, especially since Crystal figured out the magnesium glycinate, because again, she's a genius. But we started realizing I needed to develop a better sleep hygiene routine. And by sleep hygiene routine, we started taking notes. Okay, so I would wake up in the morning and she would be like, "How well did you sleep?" I slept about 5 hours and I feel pretty good. So we would then put together what I did the night before that was positive versus the nights where I would sleep 5 or 6 hours and feel very unrested. So we started developing a sleep hygiene routine, which basically, if I'm having trouble sleeping, especially, we make sure, and we always make sure to lower the room temperature in the bedroom to very, very, very chill, because that helps me sleep. I put a second blanket on me, which the weight helps me sleep. I take a contrast shower right before going to bed very often, which is 3 minutes hot, 1 minute cold, 2 minutes hot, 1 minute cold, 1 minute hot, 1 minute cold. I get out while I'm cold, dry off with a towel, put myself into the bed, and as I warm up, my body relaxes a little bit, and it helps me fall asleep. So having a very good sleep hygiene routine is tantamountably important to your, long-term health, But the other thing is that we would then look for stress relief, because stress is obviously a huge issue when it comes to your hunger and eating and binging, especially. So I wake up, do some breathing exercises every morning. I try to, at night, make sure I separate myself from work and the world and everything like that. And also exercise, those sorts of things. Which brings me to exercise, which we started focusing on daily acceptable activity. Like when I was very, very big, I could power lift heavy, but if I decided to, I'm going to switch this up and I'm going to run 10 miles today, I could kill myself. Like, that motherfucker couldn't run 10 miles. That motherfucker couldn't run 10 miles. That motherfucker would have a hard time running a mile. He could. It would be slow and would damn near fucking kill him. And then he could go, bench press 400 pounds, but he would be dead in a couple of years. So exercise, we switched my exercise completely up. This is where we developed the EDDF, Every Damn Day Fitness Volume Training Program. And for those of you that haven't used it, I actually still have it on our app. It is basically 10 sets of 10 of a bunch of different exercises, a lot of times with very minimal rest time in between. It accelerates to you get a minute to start with, then 45 seconds, then 30 seconds, then 15 seconds. Then we do back-to-backs, that sort of thing. It's a very intense program, but it's lightweight. It's literally, you start with the weight that you can do comfortably 20 reps for any exercise. But the 10 out of 10 with minimal rest times, it just blasts you. It incredibly burns a lot of calories, to an incredible degree. It's not like German volume training, which is what I did base it off of, but volume training for Every Damn Day Fitness is more of a fat-burning hypertrophy type of program, where I was able to maintain at least a good bit of muscle mass, and oddly, a lot of my lifts actually went up because you're just so used to doing so many repetitions that your body builds up muscle memory, and you figure out how to do it better, and your body becomes more efficient doing the exercise. But we started doing that, and then I started incorporating yoga, and I started incorporating other types of volume training, and then we started getting to the point where once I lost weight, now my thing is not heavy weightlifting, although I'm still pretty strong, but my thing is a deep-ass fucking gas tank. Me and this dude share almost nothing in common physically anymore. I'm still pretty strong on the same lifts for my body weight, but I don't lift heavy shit like that anymore ever, because it was just damaging my body for no good reason, because I make money with my mind, not my body. And then we switched over to whole foods, basically. So I started eating red meat again because I was a pescatarian, and that was a problem because I was craving red meat. So we started eating red meat again. And now I eat predominantly red meat. In fact, I'm going to go eat a huge-ass chuck steak when I'm done talking to you guys. But we started making it so I only ate whole foods. I didn't eat before midday because I was hydrating really well. So I've already eliminated a bunch of calories, right? And then by my midday, or a little after my midday, I would have just beef, just steak, right? So that would satiate me through most of the day, and then I would have another evening meal. And we've now switched that to, I just have a big-ass steak and then a smaller, almost snack-type meal. I take in somewhere around 2,000 calories a day. I weigh about 190 pounds. But I do spend a lot of time sitting on my ass because I do this for a living, right? Now, I then started thinking I'm feeling very restricted. So my wife, and she's a genius, said, well, let's try to make sure you have the taste of something sweet every day, because that's why I was feeling restricted from, is the taste of sweet, right? So instead of going to, I can have a candy bar, I can have this bar, I can have that bar, or anything like that, we started baking off sweet potatoes. I would bake off sweet potatoes for about 20 minutes longer than they normally get baked off at 400 degrees. So when we would put them in a refrigerator, the skin would just kind of peel off and it would be caramelized inside. And I would take that inside of that sweet potato and I'd pour a little cinnamon, a little bit of nutmeg on it, spread it around, and even sometimes put a little bit of melted butter on it. And it's like sweet potato pie filling. So every night for a while, I had a big ass sweet potato. And then we added in alternating, whole fat Greek yogurt with some frozen berries in it, just to get a little bit different texture and everything like that. And we just started rotating those things in. Now we realized that this was still whole foods and still pretty healthy. And occasionally we were going to have to indulge because holidays come and I'm not going to say no to my mom that's cooking and my dad bakes stuff too. And I'm not going to say no to that. So we started working on once a week, we would eat something just for indulgence. Like I was missing French fries, like deep fried French fries. They're not good for me, but I was missing them. So one week we would plan it out where I would get all my protein in early, get all my hydration in early. Then we would go enjoy the indulgence. And then we would come home and then we would already have planned my next food for the day, plus my hydration lined up for the next day. So we were able to get me used to having a weekly indulgence. So if something did come up where I was around all sorts of food, I could tell myself, well, I get to eat what I want to eat later on this week, and I just got to adult about it a little bit. So that started working out really, really well. And we basically started putting all of these things together, right? Now, if you're wondering where you can get this book can be purchased. This is Hunger Free and Happy. This is on Amazon right now. It's about to be on a bunch of other places too. On Amazon's where you can buy it in paperback, hardcover, and in ebook on Kindle. But I'm about to release it on ebook, on Apple Books, on Barnes and Noble, those sorts of places too. So you can check that out. And my biggest piece of advice to everybody that to avoid binging, this was one of the biggest tools that Crystal instilled in us, right? My last binge was 4 years, 7 months, and 3 days ago. It was the anniversary of when we had to put down the dog that was my everything before I met Crystal and my son. Completely attached to this dog. And I know from some people, some of you out there think it's weird to be that emotionally attached to a dog. And I personally think it's weird that you are not. Just put that out there, right? I think of me as John Wick. If you fuck with my animals, I'm going to end your family line. You and everybody else in your fucking family. And I'm just an evil bastard like that. And I don't give a fuck if you think that. But anyway, it was the anniversary of of us having to put my dog down, January 17th. And it was in 2021. So I had been receiving pretty steady death threats because I was right about COVID and people couldn't accept it. I probably between 2020 and 2021, probably well over 1,000 death threats, received online. Things like people calling animal control in my house because our other dog was dying of cancer and he appeared in one of my videos. So they called animal control for the area I lived and they came to my house, stuff like that. So I binged horribly because I was tired. I hadn't slept well. I was underhydrated. And I got a couple death threats and I was pissed and I just ate everything in the fucking house. So I was very upset about it, extremely upset because it had been a little while since I binged. But that's when we started counting the days, right? Because I realized this is a recurring thing like alcoholism, falling off the wagon type of thing. So we started treating it like it's alcoholism. We treat my binging disorder like it is a addiction because very frankly, it is. And it's not something I'm proud of by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm proud of how we are handling it for the last 4 years, 7 months, and 3 days. And I want to tell all of you that all of you could also handle your binge eating if you figure out what works best for you. That's one of the reasons why we do our coaching, because our coaching is involved around that, where we try to morph your current lifestyle into a better lifestyle, a healthier lifestyle that is filled with satiation, satisfaction, and appropriate fitness level activity. The reason for satiation means the lack of hunger, of extreme hunger. Satisfaction means you aren't craving things all the time. You are somehow making sure you enjoy all the food, whether it be you just can give up the indulgences or you are able to indulge periodically without it affecting the rest of you, because you're not falling off any diet plan if you are planning the indulgence. It is planned in. It's like I tell people all the time for the holiday season, which, by the way, I just shared these links. I just shared all these links, but please do understand this is what we do with our coaching. We help morph your lifestyle to a healthier one, bit by bit by bit, day by day by day. Okay, and we just realized that I needed to start approaching it that way. So she sat me back and said, instead of us being upset let's write down everything that happened. And she started listing off stuff like, how much hydration had you had that day? How much did you have the day before? How much did you have the day before that? And we realized that because my ADHD was going crazy because it was right around the anniversary of my dog dying, and stress out the fucking ass because I was right about COVID where a bunch of fucking people were wrong, and they couldn't accept it, so they were very pissed off sending me death threats. We realized that I hadn't been really sleeping well for about a week, like 2-3 hours a night. And we definitely realized that I was underhydrated, maybe 100 ounces of fluid a day, which is vastly underhydrated, especially because at the time I was living in Cape Coral, Florida, and working out outside every day. And then we realized my stress levels were just absolutely fucking pinned. And we had a bunch of stuff in the house that I likely shouldn't have had. We had a bunch of air-fried plantains, those sorts of things I was having a hard time with portion control. So Crystal had us take a step back, and we listed off all those things, and we developed a game plan. Okay, here's what happened with your binge. Let's just focus on the hydration. Let's get that through. So we really pushed hydration for a week. We didn't worry about anything else. We just pushed hydration for a week. All of a sudden, because we were hydrating well, a little bit less stress. I could feel my cortisol levels go down. Sleep got to be a little better. Not great because ADHD and stress, but also I wasn't nearly as hungry, and the food noise had died down tremendously. Still had it, but died down tremendously, right? So then the next week we added on, okay, daily stress relief techniques. We did 15 minutes of yoga in the morning. Then I did some chair yoga in the middle of the day. And then in the evening, we would go for a walk or something like that, watch the sun go down. So we figured that out. And then we switched up the food where we didn't have anything in the house I could possibly overindulge on. And we made sure that there was something in the house that I could have that tasted sweet at the end of the day, but wasn't necessarily an ultra-processed food. Sweet potatoes, yogurt, frozen berries, those sort of things. So that is how I personally have avoided binging for 4 years, 7 months, and 3 days as of today. We, through our coaching, which is daily communication, weekly video conferences, can help you do the same thing. And even if you aren't a binge eater, if you just overeat, we can help you with that. We have helped thousands of people lose likely a lot over 100,000 pounds cumulatively. So it is important that people understand that that is me, or it used to be. I have since murdered him. I have changed my life, and I will never go back to that. Ever. Ever. I am sure of that. I'm not sure I'm never going to binge again, but I can tell you this. I am never going to go back to this because I have the skills. My wife and I have the skills, the knowledge, the resources, which everybody has the resources, and the ability to change from that to this. And everybody can. Everybody can. It is not too late. He was 45 when he started losing weight. 45. I am 54. You are never too old. You are never too far gone. And you are never, ever, ever out of the game. You can fucking do it. Understand that. You can fucking do it. If you need help doing it, we will help you. Join our coaching. Listen to the free stuff. Buy the book, Hunger Free and Happy. It's on Amazon. I'm going to do a little Q&A, and then I'm going to go off. It's time to cook some steaks for me and my lovely wife. We also have some marinated Brussels sprouts. It's going to be amazing. So I'll do some Q&A, and then we can go from there. I'm going to pull this fat ass off the fucking screen. Sick of seeing his dumbass fucking... I murdered him, so why fucking look at him, right? So let's go all the way back. Interesting. Thank you very much. Let's see here. I remember those days. I'd eat 2 quarter pounders and still be hungry. No shit. Quarter pounders were nothing. Nothing. Honey Bison, what's up? This is mine and Crystal's illegitimate daughter. Tracking without changing habits is a huge wake-up call. When I decided to change, I ate normally in track and I was eating over 3,000 calories a day at 4'11" and sedentary, not even a binge day. That's fucking crazy. And see, what's wild is people that use their common sense, because, she's our daughter and we use common sense. But people that use common sense figure this shit the fuck out. Because very honestly, we joke about her being our illegitimate child, but I've never heard of her before like a year ago. And she figured the same shit out. That's what I'm saying. It's common sense, right? Great job, Honey Bison. Great job, Mel. When I first heard Alan talk about hydration, I changed immediately, and now it's a staple. Great goddamn job. Let's see here. Okay, ladies, keep hating. What are you talking about? You sound like you got... I don't know. This is weird. Anyway, I didn't see any hate comments. I mean, if you're talking about something else, please let me know. I would love to hear what you think we're hating about on this video. No shit. Fabulous free advice. Thank you very much. Tina Diaz, I took your advice and started hydrating right away since I was struggling with to drink water. Feel much better, and I reach my water goal midday now. That's fucking great. My son also suffers from ADHD and driven insomnia. I feel for him as a driven ADHD, college-bound, successful kid. It's tough. Do tell your son from Fluffy to Foxy. Talk to your son about magnesium glycinate. It's been a fucking game changer for me. It really has. Crystal figured it out. Now, the problem is a lot of times people will just take the suggested dose on the bottle of magnesium glycinate. Magnesium glycinate needs to be titrated for the person's weight. So, for instance, Crystal takes 600 milligrams a night, and I weigh close to double her, and I take 1,200. So just go off that. What is the best cut of meat to get you leaner? The one that is going to satiate you the most? I would suggest, excuse me, I would honestly suggest, like if you're just losing weight ambiently, I would suggest a ribeye and just make sure you keep the calories in check, because the fat plus the protein satiates the fuck out of you. I'm getting ready to have a ribeye right now. Chuck steak works the same, works just as well because they have very similar fat content, but ribeye meat is a little tenderer. Chuck steak, unless you broil it, if you grill chuck steak, it gets a little bit tough. Broiling seems to do a little better. And then normally when I do my last little bit of lean down, like I basically keep myself what I call like 2 weeks ready. And I'm not going to have to do this much longer, but I'm going to probably stay this way. But I keep myself like 2 weeks ready, meaning if I just decided I wanted to like get very, very lean, I could, in 2 or 3 weeks, I could really cut my calories. I'd probably eat like a pound and a quarter of sirloin, very lean sirloin, or eye of round every single day, plus some veggies, and that would just strip the weight off of me. But for the most part, for consistent weight loss, I would suggest you get a fattier cut of meat to make sure that you then can be very satiated on a lower amount of food. So a fattier cut of ribeye, you just want to make sure it's still within your calories, but a ribeye steak is likely going to satiate you much longer than a sirloin steak, because a sirloin steak does not have the fat content that a ribeye steak does. Hope that's answered your question. Oh man, a sweet potato idea sounds amazing. I'm telling you, game changer, and it's completely healthy for you. Fiber, phytonutrients, that sort of thing. I'm allergic to red meat. I'm anemic and folate deficient. Being loaded with vitamin D12, but that's tough. I'm glad you're getting it taken care of. 9-year anniversary for training. Great goddamn job. I cried when my son moved out and took the orange cat with him. Technically, it's his cat, but I was so attached. I became attached to this cat because we had to put our dog down. So yeah, I get it. Ooh, that's tough. That's tough. I'm very sorry, Kimberly. A&K. Food truly is an addiction. My husband and I both used to be 400 pounds. We both finally got it together and weigh around 200 now. Good for you guys. I definitely struggle with food and cravings more than my husband. I'm telling you, A&K, our prices for coaching are very, very, very low because they include a weekly consultation, video consultation, plus daily communication. I just shared the link again. You should think about it. Month to month, 3 months, and 6 months. And you should definitely get it now because these prices are not going to remain this low for much, much longer. So, what's your preferred seasoning for your steak? Celtic sea salt and pepper and garlic powder. That's it. I will sometimes make a nice red pepper pesto, and I will use that to marinate it, especially for chuck steak in the broiler. It's brilliant. Let's see. I started trying to have the sweet stuff for the evening, like you've suggested, but I feel like I crave it more than I should, despite waiting. I don't want to overindulge in the evening. I'm sorry, I don't know really what to tell you. I'd have to get a little bit more background, but you feel like you crave it more than I should, despite waiting. I don't know what you like. That maybe get a little bit more hydration. I would maybe add a little bit more protein to the earlier on in the day. Maybe I don't know. You've been taking Nomo and Alchemy for about 3 months too. Oh, that's another big thing. I added Nomo and Alchemy to it also. Thank you, and congrats. I don't know, Lauren. I don't know. Maybe if you I don't know if you're on the app or not, but send me a message. If you're already on the app, send me a message. But all right, folks, this has been 30 minutes. I am going to be back. I promise you, I am going to be back at 6 p.m. Eastern time tonight. I am going to be talking about stuff that's going to upset a lot of people. It's not going to be quite as sit down like this, but hope all of you have a great day. My name's Alan Roberts. We shall talk soon. Take advantage of the coaching deals now while they still last. God damn.